Hello everyone, this is Korosh Erfani. I am a sociologist and a political analyst, and today is Thursday, November 20, 2025, and I am going to break down an important event in the United States, which was the visit of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, in Washington. And this is a major event because the consequences of this visit were really beyond what we can imagine, because there would be not only national interest for the United States and for the Saudi Arabia, but also several regional issues and even global impact. And that's why it's worth to break it down and to see what are the details. First of all, we noticed that there was a huge ceremony of welcoming the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and we saw that the United States made a total setting of welcoming this prince in order to give him the impression that he is very valuable for the United States. And of course, he is, because he is going to be the king of one of the wealthiest kingdoms in the world, and with a lot of availability for having a close cooperation with the United States. That's why Washington is rightly investing on its relationship with this person and, of course, his country. Let's start with the points of agreement between Saudi Arabia and the United States. The first one was regarding the defense. They could get to a kind of agreement, even though this agreement was not exactly what Saudi Arabia was expecting, because Saudi Arabia wanted a kind of NATO treaty with the United States, which means the engagement of the United States to defend Saudi Arabia, and it didn't get that. The United States didn't want really to be committed and engaged in a NATO-alike defense of Saudi Arabia. They got another form of agreement, which is called Major Non-NATO Ally Agreement, which is anyway something important and something consequential, I think, but is not really NATO-alike treaty. But the reason for which we should understand is that United States has now the experience of defending Israel against Iran, and we saw during the 12 days war that Washington was not really able to defend the most the closest ally of the United States in the region. We cannot imagine any country can have a status more important than Israel for the United States. And despite of this fact, we saw that the United States was not really able to totally defend and protect Israel, right? So, of course, what would be the countries that can fight or wage a war against Saudi Arabia? This is Iran, and in very least probable case, Israel. So, of course, against Israel, the United States doesn't want to be, in the other front. And regarding Iran, now the Americans know that if they couldn't really protect Israel, they cannot really protect Saudi Arabia with a huge geography, a huge surface, of course. The superficie is not comparable with little Israel, and on the other hand, with very close distance of Iran and its missile capacities, against Saudi Arabia in a plausible, possible future war. So that's why, logically, it's very significant. It's very meaningful that the United States didn't want really to have such a commitment regarding the Saudi Arabia. Technically, it's meaningful. Another point of talks between Saudi Arabia and the United States was regarding the advanced weapons. And of course, for the first time, Washington agreed to deliver the F-35 jet fighters to Saudi Arabia for the first time, right? And even though it's a matter of different version compared to what had been delivered previously to Israel, but still it's something important, and also other form of the very advanced weaponries, all agreed finally to be delivered and to be sold to Saudi Arabia. So that's the major arms sale that brings a lot of money to the United States, and gives, on the other hand, a new military status to Saudi Arabia in the region. So that's why we have to take account of the importance of this part, essentially because Washington agreed also to give the very advanced air defense system to the Saudi Arabia, which will be also a crucial point for the geostrategic equation in the region. Another point was about the economic cooperation, of course. And here we have a lot of promises, of course. One number that was striking really was $1 trillion. So $1 trillion of investment of Saudi Arabia in the United States, which is huge. And if we take it at face value, right, it's significant. Beyond doubt, we can see that it's very important. But don't forget that we have already gotten this kind of number in the previous months, right? Because right now, Trump is talking about something like $18 trillion of investment that had been promised, at least during these 10, 11 months. We don't know how much of this will be actually invested really in the United States, accomplished as economic projects. We don't know, but at least the promise is there. And I think the case of the Saudi Arabia is the same thing. It's a very long-term strategy for Saudi Arabia to invest in the United States, and essentially in a very sensitive sectors like the AI, for example. And on the other side is a matter of investing in the Saudi Arabia by the American companies. There would be a lot of facility and availability for doing so according to these agreements. Of course, we will see what would be the translation of all of this promise in actuality, in the actual investment. But don't forget that the United States right now, because of the a kind of sluggish economy, needs really to be boosted. And if there is one of these promises of $18 trillion, to be effectively done here, it would be really helping Trump administration to show something to the Americans that we are beyond a rhetoric, beyond a narrative, and there are the facts that can be effectively checked. Also, we got a kind of agreement between these two countries regarding the civil nuclear cooperation. And this is important also because for the first time we can see that the United States is engaged to build up several nuclear facilities in Saudi Arabia. So that's why that could be also a paradigm shifting of the relationship between the United States and an Arab country in the region. So there was a point of discussion regarding the regional stabilization. Of course, both agreed to have cooperation regarding the counterterrorism, and also regional economic integration, the future of Gaza, for example, and so on. All right, these were some points of agreement, but we shouldn't dismiss the fact that there were several points of disagreement, and they are also important. We must take them into consideration. The first one, as I told you, there was not really a full defense treaty. Saudi Arabia wanted really have that as a kind of guarantee for the future, because it's a matter of billions and billions of dollars invested in both sides, and they want a kind of assurance regarding that. But the United States, for the reason that we have developed, couldn't really be engaged in a full defense treaty, but just an agreement, right? One of the reasons I told you is that the lack of capacity of the United States to defend completely a huge country of like Saudi Arabia against Iran, and even against the Houthi in Yemen, for example, because they are able to hit any part of the Saudi Arabia easily with their missile power, right? So that's why it's impossible to imagine to be engaged in something that cannot be done. For the on the points of disagreement, there was also a kind of we can say divergence between Saudi Arabia and United States regarding of the nuclear facilities that are going to be built over there. Washington imposed a lot of restrictions, regarding non-proliferation restriction and other cases, in order to be sure that these facilities cannot at any moment be turned into something different, but producing the energy. Of course, Saudi Arabia wanted more independence or autonomy regarding this facility, but finally there was a point of disagreement on that. But let's talk about something crucial. One of the most important points in this visit and all these agreements was effectively if the United States can bring Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords. It didn't happen. And that's a major event, because Israel was watching effectively this visit with a lot of doubt and suspicion. And when we know that Saudi Arabia was very strict regarding any positive approach for accepting the Abraham Accords regarding the future of Palestine, right? And having an absolutely realizable, a realistic project for two-state solutions, we see that how difficult is to count really on the future of all these agreements because of this point, because of this specific point, right? Because Saudi Arabia wants absolutely to get something that is called the independent state of Palestine. They know that without that there wouldn't be any peace, any durable peace in the region. And they know that, right? And that's why they are very firm on that. They are determined to obtain it in exchange of the acceptance of Abraham Accords. And we are going to talk about that, why Israel had been completely disappointed regarding this visit because of this impossibility of normalization of the relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Now, let's talk about something important. We saw that during this visit, and exactly at the same time, something happened. Something that we can translate into kind of manipulation by the Zionist network in the United States. I am talking about the Epstein files, right? We can see how the Epstein files became a kind of sort of Damocles over the head of White House and specifically President Trump. Because every time that there is a major move in the foreign policy of the United States, and there is something that is happening on the detriment of the Israeli interest, something that's not really totally for the benefit of Israel, we have a kind of resurgence, re-emergence of the Epstein files. And when we see that this time, miraculously, every obstacle and impediment have been removed in Congress, in the U.S. Congress, regarding finally the final vote for the Epstein files. We understand that an institution that is, I'm talking about the U.S. Congress, of course, an institution that is 85%, 90% under control of AIPAC, under control of the Zionist network. Suddenly you see that there is a complete interruption of the very close link between the Republicans in the Congress and President Trump, and they are, in the line to vote yes for the publication of the report, despite all the efforts of President Trump in order to prevent that, right? And finally, he didn't have any choice but accepting it and signing it into a law. So what happens? What's happening is sending a very strong message by the Zionist network, by the AIPAC, by Israeli government, through President Trump, that if there is any seriousness in what is happening between Saudi Arabia and the United States, there would be serious troubles for President Trump, without any doubt, right? That's the message. We can see that it's so concomitant, it's so simultaneous. Every time there is something that's happening for the benefit of the American national interest, but in the expense of the Israeli interest, immediately you have a parallel. We have the resurgence, of the Epstein files. So it shows the mechanism, right? It shows the mechanism that had been established by the Israeli government, the Israeli network here, in order to blackmail those who are in the power and get them effectively to do whatever they want. So we saw this week with the whistleblower coming from the former CIA agent, telling us that if President Trump accepted to bomb the Iranian nuclear facilities, It was because Israel had threatened to bomb Iran with the nuclear weapons. So President Trump wanted to avoid it, wanted to prevent it. And that's why he accepted to do it despite a lot of elements that were against it, right? So we can see that Israel tries to get to its objective at any cost, at all cost. There is nothing that we can imagine that Israel doesn't use really to get to its objective. Now, at the same day, here in Washington, President Trump is visiting, meeting with Prince bin Salman and signing a lot of agreements and so on. What happens in the region? What happens in the Middle East? First, Israel restarted to massively bomb Gaza, killing dozens of people. Okay, that's the first thing. A huge military operation in the West Bank in order to send a message that we are conquering the West Bank completely and transforming it in a part of Israel. The same day, imagine. Bombing the south of Lebanon, right? Despite the ceasefire, massive bombing of the southern Lebanon in the same day. And the visit of Netanyahu inside Syria, the occupied territory of Syria, again, to send a message to Washington that we are occupying this country too. So 4 different military operations or fronts just to send a message for President Trump and his team at the same day where the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia is here in Washington. So the result is very simple. The world is watching that Israel doesn't want the United States of America change its master. Israel is saying to Washington that we are your eternal master. You are our provider. You means the United States of America, your country, right? Your country is our provider, our supplier, and we don't want to change it. We don't want that you use, if you like, the master, right? The new master could be, for example, a country that is most probably investing $1 trillion in the United States. No. Imagine for an average American who is following the news. One country is there and ready, eagerly, to invest $1 trillion in your country. And there is another country that is planning to get $80 billion for coming 20 years, $4 billion per year for nothing, and giving you nothing, just taking everything that it can without giving anything, right? Just giving more problems, more turmoils, and more issues to your country. And another country says that you are welcome to invest in our country, and we are going to invest billions and billions, if not $1 trillion in your country. Of course, the public opinion in the United States starts to wake up, and to say that what's going on? Why we have to give all this money, the taxpayers' money, to Israel, and why we have to be reluctant somehow regarding the other country that is ready to invest billions in our country. Why? And that's the reason I think there is effectively a kind of a wake-up call for the American And that's another reason, I think, the Israelis are trying to organize something extremely bad for the United States. As I told you, Israel doesn't hesitate to have resort to any means, to any methods, to any tactics, how dirty it can be, or whatever it is, in order to get to its objective. So that's why we should be attentive about two things. Two bad perspective for the United States. The first one is the economy. We know the influence of the Zionist network in the American economy, right? We know that more than 80% of the whole American economy are in the hands of the Zionists here, the big corporations that are somehow acting in accordance with the Israelis' interest, much more than the American interest, of course, in the short run or in the long term, is the same. We have to keep in mind this reality. So that's why through the people who have infiltrated the Trump's team, Trump's cabinet, they put the American economy in a very shaky situation. And of course, if it goes on in this direction, we can have serious troubles here for the American economy. I am talking about the possibility of a kind of collapse even. Why? Because if there is a change of direction in the major strategies of the United States regarding Israel and other countries in the region, and if this change, this paradigm shift, is putting in question the future of the Israeli project of the greater Israel, of course, Israel is ready to sacrifice the United States for preventing that, for avoiding that. And one of the tools is the economy, bringing down the American economy so that the United States cannot change this equation. The equation that the Zionists think is right now in their favor, after all these 2 years of war in the region. And they think that the United States must continue to support them so that they can effectively realize this plan, this project of Greater Israel. So that's why the Zionists took the American economy in hostage, and they are ready to make it collapse if it's necessary, if there is no really kind of redirection for the American foreign policy. Okay? And the second one is to bring the United States into a serious regional or even global war. Don't forget that right now there are 4 centers the Zionists are working on in order to push the United States into a serious war, right? Venezuela, here, Ukraine with NATO, then China, in South Asia, and of course Iran with the question of the nuclear activity and so on and so on. So one of these 4 possibilities will be explored seriously, will be used seriously by the Zionist network in order to bring the United States into a war, right? So that it can be forced somehow, obliged to abandon completely this change of the equation in the Middle East. So that's why we must be attentive about all of this, and I am trying to produce more and more videos regarding that, and I hope that You can comment on these videos, giving me your opinion, and I will be glad to have effectively a kind of dialogue through the comments that you can put on these videos. Thank you very much for having watched this video, and see you next week. Bye.